I'm Sayward.
And I'm Scotty.
And we're the Brazells. So our son actually came to us and was asking to be baptized. We had never been to church with him. He had only ever been to church a few times with his grandparents. But he just was not letting that go. And we asked him what baptism meant to him. And he said it meant accepting Jesus into his heart and asking forgiveness for his sins. And so he kind of really knew what that meant. And that was really kind of hit a chord with us. And so I went to my friend Reese, Myron and Joe, and asked him to kind of connect us with a way to get Baron baptized, because they had been talking to us about Gateway for years, and we had just kind of never really taken that next step. He got baptized that very next Sunday, and then we started going to church every Sunday from that point on. And come to find out that Scotty's friends, Ricky and Kimmy Woodcock, had also been talking to Scotty about Gateway for years.
I mean, I've played softball with Ricky on the weekends for the last 17, 18 years. And when we were having our struggles in our marriage, of course I would confide in him because, I mean, we're basically brothers. So he just kept telling me, man, you need to come to church. You need to come to church. And then we got to talking about church league during the week. He's like, man, I really need a shortstop. I was like, I'm not just going to come to church to play softball. And then that's when Baron asked to be baptized. We had 3 different sources pulling us to come here. So that's when we knew it was our kid needed to get us in church.
Reese and Joe have been members of the church, I think, since way back at the YMCA days. But every time I had a struggle in my life and I would talk to Reese and Joe, you know, they were making those small investments over, 8 or 9 years. But, you know, we've been at Gateway now for a year. And when I look back and I see, you know, how much Baron has grown and how much our daughter Layla has come out of her shell and enjoys coming to church. And she said her first Bible verse just last week. And it was just so heartwarming to see her say that. And I realized that if it weren't for Reese and Joe and Ricky and Kimmy kind of constantly, you know, every time telling us, well, why don't you come to Gateway? And we would turn them down, or we would, you know, kind of politely like, oh, okay, well, maybe we'll see you there, and never showing up. And, you know, Reese would email me my invoice for my horse care, and it would have a sermon attached to it. And I would just kind of, you know, okay, maybe I opened it, maybe I didn't. They made those investments years and years ago, never knowing if they would ever pay off and never knowing if we would ever actually accept the offers that they were making. But we did, and I'm so glad we did, because our marriage is so much better because of it, and our children are going to grow up in a better, happier home with a better foundation than we ever had. And I know that because someone made a small investment in us and it worked out in the biggest way possible, that we can do that for someone else. I've had the opportunity at my workplace to pray for a woman whose daughter is struggling with severe depression, and she herself is now depressed because of it. And I just felt the Spirit when I was helping her that day to just pray for her. And I said out loud, I'll pray for you. But then something said in my head, now, I'll pray for you now. And I've never done that in my entire life, but I held hands with her and I said her daughter's name and we said a prayer out loud together. And she said to me that was the first time that she had felt hope in her entire struggle over the last several years with her daughter and her daughter's depression. And, you know, to me, feeling hope is such a wonderful thing. And if I could have shared that with her for just a second, you know, that's amazing to me. And I've never been able to do that with anyone, but because of Gateway and the confidence that small groups have given me to pray, I could pray for her that day and I could give her that little bit of hope. We had invited Jen and Eric to church several times, and they had never really taken us up on the offer. They were trying to adopt an unborn child, and the child's mother was struggling with addiction. And Jen finally called me one day, and were in Charlotte visiting my family, and she said, I really need to come to church. Will you be there tomorrow? And we weren't going to be there. We were in Charlotte. And I said, absolutely, we'll be there.
We left at midnight.
We packed the car up at midnight and drove straight home and showed up to church the next day, because I felt like if I had told her, you know, we're going to be out of town, that was that opportunity that was going to be missed. And maybe she wouldn't go again. Maybe she wouldn't try again. So we showed up, and now because of that, their daughter Josie was able to be prayed for when she needed it most. And now Josie's going to grow up in a church home because we showed up, we invested, and we were there. And, that helped them grow, but also helped us grow tremendously.